Revealed, my sinister night shift at a retail store with 7 terrifying rules you won't believe. Mia stepped into the fluorescent-lit hellscape of Bellwood Plaza's discount store for her first night shift, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. The faded aisles seemed to stretch endlessly, shadows draping like cobwebs. The thought of saving up for her mother's medical bills fueled her determination, but the palpable unease gnawed at her guts. As she donned the ill-fitting uniform, she could almost sense the walls whispering secrets, terrors lurking just beyond the reach of her flashlight. A tattered notebook on the counter caught her eye, pages curled and ink smudged with frantic scrawls. The handwriting danced over the page, sending chills down her spine. The rules were absurd and horrifying: never engage with the mannequins after dark. Trust no one, including your coworkers. Always check the stockroom before clocking out. She scoffed nervously. Superstitions. Yet, as she flipped the pages, a chill shot through her. These were warnings from someone who had lived the nightmare she was about to enter. Hours stretched, and the store morphed into an unsettling labyrinth. The fluorescent lights buzzed irritably, amplifying the eerie silence broken only by her footsteps. Every aisle seemed to shield a fresh horror. The mannequins loomed, their painted smiles creeping Mia out, twisting into malevolent grins in her mind. She dismissed it all as anxiety, but with each passing moment, the feeling of being watched intensified. Was it her imagination, or did a pair of hollow eyes follow her every step? Her heart raced as she reluctantly ventured into the stockroom, the store's desperate heartbeat. As she pushed the door open, the flickering overhead light cast erratic shadows that pooled ominously like dark water pooling around her feet. Boxes lay strewn about, shifting the reality around her into chaos. And then there it was, a mannequin, stood unnaturally still in the corner. Its eyes were a midnight blue, piercing in their unyielding gaze. Just a prop, she muttered, trying to shake the feeling of dread that curled tight in her ribs. But when a coworker called for her and then vanished into that same stockroom moments later, every hair on Mia's body prickled. There was no response, just engulfing silence. Panic surged like wildfire. Where had they gone? The stories of the previous manager, their disappearance, turned from mere gossip into red flags flaring in her mind. She had to find them, to get out. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Gripped by escalating terror, Mia bolted through the store. Each aisle dipped further into darkness, every mannequin morphing into potential threats. The whispers intensified, coalescing into a symphony of despair. They knew, whatever they were, had taken her coworker, perhaps others before them. Then, the overhead lights flickered violently and plunged her into an oppressive darkness. The whispers crescendoed, invading her thoughts, pulling her into the depths of their disturbing chorus. Panic surged within her chest, suffocating her hope. Clenching her fists, she felt the shadows stalking her, closing in, inch by inch. Her breaths quickened. With the hairs on her neck standing tall, Mia realized she was trapped. Would she uncover the sinister truth before time ran out, or become yet another lost soul in the dark? Mia spun around, her breath hitching as the darkness enveloped her like a shroud. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of sound that clawed at her resolve. She fumbled for her flashlight, its beam flickering weakly before finally reigniting in a sputtering glow. The light sliced through the gloom, revealing the abandoned aisle silhouettes of mannequins stretched grotesquely in the shadows. She staggered back, her heart racing, desperate to escape. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she noticed a flicker of movement. A mannequin, its arm raised imperceptibly. No. It couldn't be moving. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing the vision to disappear. Mia. A voice, a soft, desperate whisper. Was it her imagination? Help me! It was unmistakably her coworker, Jamie. Jamie! She yelled, fear morphing into urgency. Where are you? The voice faded away, the silence that followed crushing. Mia steadied her breath and followed the sound, inching deeper into the lurking shadows. Each step felt like a plunge into the abyss, her pulse drumming in her ears. As she neared the stockroom, the door creaked ominously, swinging open just a crack. Was it her pushing it without realizing, or was it something else? She froze. Instinct whispered for her to turn back, to flee this wretched place. But that voice, the echo of her friendship, compelled her closer. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to leave, yet she couldn't abandon Jamie. Panic surged again as she slipped inside, the beam from her flashlight illuminating the chaos of scattered boxes and abandoned items, muddling the space with shadows. Jamie? She called again, her voice trembling. The air felt thick and stifling, like she was walking through mud. As she turned a corner, time shattered and paused, a mannequin stood before her, its midnight blue eyes locking onto hers. Not again. Mia's voice was barely a whisper. The mannequin tilted its head, a flicker of movement, the flicker of life. It felt too real, too close. Sudden noise erupted from the back of the stockroom. The crashing of boxes echoed, followed by a dark laughter that reverberated through the walls. It was mocking her. The overwhelming dread clawed at her insides, but she couldn't let fear win. She needed to find Jamie. Mia pressed on, pushing through a sea of boxes, each one threatening to trip her as she stumbled deeper into the dark. The laughter grew louder, a sinister symphony swirling around her as though the store itself was alive, watching, waiting. With every inch forward, the tension choked her. The mannequin's painted smiles seemed to grow wider, their stored secrets whispering harshly in her ear. Mia's heart raced. The world felt inverted, shadowed by a malevolence she couldn't comprehend, yet she pressed on. There had to be an exit, a way to escape this living nightmare. Suddenly, she heard a cry. Her name echoed through the aisles, steeped in fear. Mia! Help! The shriek shattered her resolve, driving her forward once more. Jamie's voice pierced the veil of shadows, urgency painting every syllable in sickening dread. Where was she? The laughter morphed, spiraling into something sinister, blending with the cries until they became one. Mia ran, the light bouncing wildly ahead of her, striving to break through the darkness. But as she reached the end of the aisle, the path forked, splitting into two uncertain directions, the laughter crescendoing all around her, giggling with each confusing turn. Where do I go? She gasped. The store twisted, walls closing in, and the mannequins, she could see them shifting, inching closer. The air crackled with tension, electrified with an overwhelming foreboding. Which way would lead her to Jamie? The sound of the laughter echoed again, chilling her to the bone. Desperation clawed at her chest as the walls began to pulse, as if the store itself were breathing down her neck. But what she didn't know was that not all paths led to salvation. Mia's heart pounded as she stood frozen at the intersection. The laughter wrapped around her, sharp and taunting, pulling her in both directions. She could almost feel it tugging at her soul, urging her down one path and then the other. Left or right? Each option loomed like a grim reaper, promising only despair. Get it together, she muttered, her voice shaky. She pushed her flashlight beam into the space, scanning for any hint of Jamie. The dim glow danced oddly, as if the shadows were playing tricks on her. She squeezed her eyes shut briefly, trying to drown out the overwhelming terror. Then she chose left. With a deep breath, Mia sprinted down the aisle, the fluorescent lights flickering overhead as if unsure of their own existence. Her footfalls echoed against the tiled floor, swallowed up by the ominous laughter that followed behind her, a sinister applause for her poor decision-making. Mia! Jamie's voice again, clearer this time. Hope surged, fueling her legs. Please! Help! She rounded another corner, her breath coming in quick bursts. The stockroom's chaos was beginning to feel like a dream too vivid to shake. But before she could process where the voices were coming from, the flicker of a shadow at the end of the aisle caught her attention. But was it a shadow or something else? The beam of her flashlight landed on what seemed like a mass of tangled limbs, a collapsed mannequin. Or something worse. Heart in her throat, Mia approached slowly, every instinct screaming for her to back away. The laughter crescendoed again, a guttural sound that chilled her skin. Over here. Jamie's cries were a desperate echo, bouncing off the walls so close. Mia forced herself forward, forcing each footstep as if wading through molasses. She stumbled into a small clearing, filled with empty boxes and fallen decorations. The air felt thick, suffocating, and the laughter morphed, now sounding almost pained, as if it was teasing itself into madness. "Jamie!" she screamed, already knowing the answer. The emptiness offered no comfort, no sign that her friend was near. Panic surged. Would she ever find her? She had to keep moving. Turning again, Mia decided to double back, hoping against hope she hadn't gone too far. As she turned, something stopped her dead in her tracks. A figure stood at the end of the aisle. A mannequin? No, it was too lifelike, too still. Its face was marked with a visage that scraped at the back of her memory, the haunting curve of a smile that promised danger. Its eyes glinted as they caught the flicker of her light, a glimmer of something sinister. She backpedaled, and before she could react, the laughter erupted again, filling the space, shaking her core, blending with Jamie's cries. It encased her in claustrophobic terror. Run! Her mind screamed, but her body betrayed her, rooted in place. The mannequin suddenly lunged forward, jerking in sudden motions, filling the space with a grotesque display that shouldn't exist in the realm of reality. "Help!" Jamie screamed again, but the voice started to distort, echoing as if the walls were swallowing it whole. Mia stumbled backward in a frantic retreat, turning, and finding the aisles multiplying before her. Panic echoed in her ears as she dashed down one path. Boxes flew past her as she veered left and right, desperately seeking an exit or a way to Jamie. "Stop!" The command sliced through the air, icy and clear. Mia spun around. The figure stood once more. The laughter receded, leaving only silence, but the mannequin's posture had shifted, signaling she was not alone anymore. Something far worse was here. Her flashlight flickered, barely illuminating the dark. What now? The thought slipped through her mind like sand as shadows began to cloud the edges of her vision, crawling sideways, inching closer. A low whisper stirred in the air, pulling at her as she stood frozen. "Mia! Who are you?" She gasped, her voice trembling as the figures surrounded her, a roomful of spectators just waiting to see what she would do next. It was too late to find Jamie now. But was it ever too late to join them? The figures' eyes glowed like embers in the dark, and their hollowed laughter echoed through the stockroom, drawing her into a dark realization. What if they weren't mannequins at all? As she turned to run, the laughter surged again, a roar of madness consuming her, making her heart race faster than she had ever thought possible. Understanding slowly seeped into her. This was a game, and she had just stepped into the arena, with the walls closing in, and no way out in sight. Mia sprinted towards an unsettling truth that twisted in the very shadows chasing her. What kind of nightmare was she truly trapped in? But there was no time to ponder such darkness, not with whispers only growing more demanding, wrapping their icy fingers around her heart. "Run while you can," a shadowy figure urged. The question remained, was she really meant to survive? Mia felt the darkness close in, thick and suffocating, stifling her with every passing second. The laughter bounced around the aisles like a rogue wave, crashing over her, pulling at her very essence until she felt weightless. Was it real? She strained to concentrate, to discern the sound creeping around her, but it only further distorted into a grotesque symphony that echoed her fears. "Help me!" The whisper was like ice skimming over her skin, freezing her to the spot as her eyes darted around, searching for a source. Once more, her flashlight flickered violently before giving way to darkness, the beam extinguished as if snuffed out by something unseen. Panic clawed at her throat. "No, please, not now." She gripped the handle tightly, wishing it would respond to her fear, willing it to illuminate the reality around her once more. Desperately she stepped forward, expecting to hear Jamie's frantic cries, but the only sound was the clattering of fallen boxes and the faint rustle of shadows. As she edged deeper into the dim recesses of the stockroom, a fire of anger ignited within her. "I'll find you, Jamie. I swear." But there was no response. Instead, a low rumble thrummed beneath her feet. It was barely perceptible, but the ground trembled under the weight of an unspeakable dread stretching its icy fingers toward her. The mocking laughter resumed, merging with the noise until it became a single throbbing pulse. Where was Jamie? The thought gnawed at her insides, churning her stomach with bile. Fear fed her legs as she stumbled toward the nearest doorway, praying it would lead her out of this hellhole. But the entrance hung open, revealing only a void, a gaping mouth of darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. She hesitated, glancing back at where she thought she might find safety. Shadows curled and rippled like smoke, darting between the towering shelves. "Mia," it was Jamie's voice, clear and urgent. "Mia, please. I'm here." The panic surged again, sharp and thrilling. She spun back, her heart thundering in her chest. "Where are you?" "Just follow the sound." She bolted, sprinting toward the echo of her friend's voice. A pit opened in her stomach, filling with dread. How many times had she followed the wrong sound, the wrong shadow? Yet desperation clawed at her, driving her deeper into the den of horrors. The aisle narrowed, the walls closing in on her, colder with every step. Light bursts flashed as her flashlight sputtered and flickered. Forcing herself to breathe, Mia kept her eyes forward. The path twisted, sharp corners looming, shadows clinging. But then she froze. In the background, she spotted movement, a figure that blurred the line between mannequin and human once more. Its face, peering through the dim light, wore that haunting smile, twisting in ways human mouths shouldn't. Behind it, the shadows coalesced, forming a crowd of silhouettes, all taking form in twisted, grotesque delight. "Mia." Jamie's voice was laced with an eerie undertone now, pleading yet somehow inviting. "You can't run from them. You need to join. Join." She gasped. The idea tasted foul on her tongue. "What do you mean?" "Embrace the game," Jamie urged, and suddenly, the laughter grew all around, seeping through the air until it felt thick enough to slice. The figures moved, inching closer, and Mia fought against the primal urge to flee while they whispered promises of safety and belonging, tainting her reality. "I want to become one of you." She screamed the words, her voice hoarse as she turned to run, her heart racing with the grim reality that lined the edges of her escape. As she sprinted, Mia could feel them watching, the feverish eyes like flames tracing her movements. She doubled back, desperate for a way out, frantically searching for the one chance to flee. Each step felt heavier, as if she was sinking in quicksand, the walls of the stockroom pressing in, engorged with a fear unlike any other, but as she turned a final corner, her breath caught. An open exit stood at the end of the corridor, bright light streaming from it, a promise of freedom. However, shift the shadows again, the figures blocking her path. "You'll find us again, Mia," they crooned, the whispers gnarling in a chilling harmony. They began to chant, their voices melding, forming a siren's call that beckoned her in. Mia hesitated, the glowing exit contrasting sharply with the darkest of promises lingering behind. She had to choose: would she return to face the truth, or would she step into the great unknown? With dread crystallizing her resolve, one unmistakable thought echoed in her mind: what awaited her in that light was a puzzle denser than any darkness. Would she dare break through, or was she meant for the shadows that had already claimed her? In that next moment, a decision loomed larger than her fear, threatening to engulf her whole. Mia had never felt so torn. The light ahead flickered invitingly, as if it were a lifeline cast from a ship lost at sea. Yet, what lay behind her, the figures, the whispers, the dark promise of belonging, was a pull she couldn't ignore. They crept closer, their features blurring in madness, their laughter echoing in her mind like clanging bells, insistently calling her back. "Mia." Jamie's voice again, wavering, almost melodic in its sadness. They won't hurt you if you come back. Stay with us. No. The word burst from Mia's lips, a heartbeat of defiance. You're not Jamie. You're not my friend. With each breath she took, the shadows rippled and writhed. They twisted into grotesque forms, mouths stretching and distorting, screaming out laughter that clawed at her eardrums. Mia staggered backward, unable to decide whether to flee into the light or succumb to the all-consuming darkness behind her. Her pulse screamed in harmony with the chaos around her, a reminder of her own heartbeat. Desperate to survive, she pivoted and bolted toward the exit, the light ahead casting a stark glow over her soul, a beacon of hope. But as she sprinted, the shadows thundered behind her, chasing her with a madness that reverberated in the stockroom like an approaching storm. Mia. The voices rose and fell like waves crashing against a shore, each one familiar yet wrong. Come back. The moment seemed to stretch, time unraveling as the laughter crescendoed. In the haze, she stumbled, her foot catching on an unseen obstacle, one of the boxes she had earlier dismissed. Mia felt the world flip as she landed hard, the breath knocked from her lungs. Instinctively, she scrambled back to her feet, her skin damp with sweat and fear. Suddenly, she was face to face with the figure from before. It stood taller than her, its form flickering like an old film reel, features constantly shifting. Instead of a smile now, there was a grimace, a mouth opening wide with rows of sharp, crooked teeth, welcoming her into its embrace. Join us, Mia. It breathed, voice chilling her bones. You have always belonged to us. You know that. Just as despair threatened to choke her, Mia reached into her pocket and fumbled for the small frayed piece of paper Jamie had given her before her disappearance, a map of the store, drawn hastily in the dim light. Kneeling, she gripped it tight, feeling the warmth of spirit it represented. Where to go? Where? Panic gave her words tension. She needed to think, but the world was closing in, filling with dark memories of laughter and loss. From behind, the shadows surged, hungry and grasping. She could almost feel their claws scratch her back, pulling her into the void. But then she remembered something. The map led to the staff room. It had an emergency exit. Mia surged forward again, breathless, a surge of fury propelling her. She pushed past the looming silhouettes, diving for the door leading to the staff area. It slammed behind her with a resounding thud, cutting off the laughter, plunging her into immediate silence. Panting, Mia looked around this small enclosed space. Dim light flickered on the wall, revealing the worn-out furniture and a single table piled with forgotten crates. She needed to find the exit, needed to escape. Her mind coded fury and fear into action, and she darted for the back door, longing for the light outside. Yet, before she reached it, she froze. In the corner of her eye, a family photo hung crookedly on the wall. Unable to shake the sense of familiarity, she moved closer. It was Jamie. Standing beside her, smiling brightly next to a mother she had never known. But the background, it was unmistakably the store. Is this our family? The echo of Jamie's voice sliced through her mind. The shadows surged again, a haunting crescendo, whispering around her. No, this can't be real, Mia whispered to herself, confusion swirl filling her spirit like a gathering storm. Mia. They echoed, calming now, almost tender. You can join us here, forever. The warmth she had held flickered with doubt, dimming beneath dread. Mia was faced with a choice sharper than the darkness around her. To pull her friend from an abyss of shadows or step into the light herself. Was Jamie trapped, or had she really become one of them? With her heart pounding, she reached for the door handle, glancing back at the photo, a potent reminder of the stakes. Would she uncover the truth, or would she be swallowed whole by a sinister connection she barely understood? The door creaked, a malevolent whisper creeping through the crack as she turned the handle slowly. The door barely creaked open before a powerful gust of cold air slammed into Mia, causing her to stumble backward. As she rebalanced herself, the shadows grew restless, swirling in the dimly lit space around her. Chilling hands reached out, clutching at her with desperation. It was as if the air itself was animated with malice, pulling her towards the darkness even as she tried to escape. "Don't go. Don't leave." Jamie's voice echoed, laced with a tragedy that made Mia's skin crawl. The warmth of their old friendship was gone, a chilling impersonation trapped in something otherworldly. Mia tore her gaze from the photo. The sight of Jamie smiling felt like a knife twisting in her gut. She had to focus. The emergency exit was just behind the boxes. But as she tried to push through the door, a distant clang sounded metallic and hollow, sending a jolt of fear down her spine. Mia, the shadow's murmur sang like a twisted lullaby, attempting to soothe her, to pull her back into their waiting embrace. She clutched the map tightly, her knuckles white. Each detail on that crumpled paper felt like fire beneath her fingers. She had to resist. She had to remember the laughter Shane and the others shared. They were not voices anymore, just the remnants of norms twisted into a woeful song. "Stay. Come join us." Suddenly, the lights overhead flickered violently, casting chaotic, darting shadows that danced around the room. Mia felt panic rising in her throat, her heart racing ahead of her legs as she darted toward the cluttered stacks of boxes that separated her from the exit. With every step, the whispers sharpened, forming a distorted chorus around her. The once familiar voices sang of a past that didn't belong to her anymore. But they sounded so close, so desperate. "We have all missed you." Mia's breath hitched, her mind racing. What if Jamie was lost but still wanted to save her? What if stepping into the light meant abandoning Jamie to that dark fate? Twisting away from a presence lurking too close, she launched herself against the boxes. They trembled under her weight but didn't collapse. The sound of laughter morphed into something sinister, filling the air with sharp disbelief. Suddenly, Mia spotted the door behind the crates, illuminated by a dim gleam. It was just a few feet away. Encouraged, she sprinted forward, ignoring the clawing souls that seemed to swarm around her. Each moment that passed felt like a countdown. Something was building behind her. Before she could reach the handle, a figure stepped out from the shadows, blocking her path. It was Jamie's face, twisted and distorted, features flickering like the dying flame of a candle. The eyes bore into her, imploring yet monstrous. "Mia. Think of all the fun we could have." The voice slithered over her skin, a sweet poison. "We could be happy together again, Mia." A voice cut through the nightmare, not Jamie's, someone familiar but distorted, detached. It was Shane, his image shrouded in shadows. "You have to get out. This isn't real." Fighting between Jamie's urging and Shane's warning, Mia felt torn apart. Her grip on the map began to slip, the paper crumbling in her grasp. "What is stopping you?" Jamie, or what had become of her, pressed, the darkness swirling like a vortex. In that moment, the world narrowed around Mia. She felt the encroaching presence closing in on her, heavy with despair. Flickers of laughter morphed into echoes of anguish. She yelled, "No. I want to let you take me." With a sudden surge of adrenaline, she twisted on her heel and lunged toward the door, desperation fueling her feet, but as she reached the handle, it shattered in her hand, shards of metal exploding outward. The noise echoed like a gunshot, and the shadows howled in rage. Mia staggered back, eyes wide in horror. Time paused. "Join us, Mia." The darkness screamed, clawing at her. The cacophony grew unbearable, everything was colliding into chaos. There she stood, facing the torn shadows, feeling every ounce of terror wrapping around her. She was caught, entrapped in a moment that felt like it would stretch into forever, and then she heard it, crystal clear. A sinister whisper sliced through the whirlpool of madness, "Make your choice." The weight of her decision felt heavier than before, heart racing as she contemplated the weight of her actions. Had she truly left Jamie behind, or was she about to lose everything? As the shadows throbbed around her, she glimpsed a faint light illuminating a path unseen. In that moment of uncertainty, faced with all her fears, she reached for another door. It was hidden, barely visible through the turmoil. What awaited her behind that door? Mia felt the heat crawling up her spine as she hesitated, her fingers brushing against the cold surface of the hidden door. Each touch fired her instincts to flee, but curiosity pulled her closer, urging her to see just what horrors lay beyond. With a deep breath, she gripped the door handle, and it swung open with an agonizing creak that echoed through the chaos around her. Light spilled out like a flood, illuminating what seemed an endless corridor, stretching into an uncertain darkness. The shadows writhed behind her, almost mocking her plight as if they knew she was stepping into a different realm of fear. "Mia, don't." Jamie's voice was shrill, laced with desperation. "It won't help you. We can find a way together." The corridor beckoned. Shadows loomed still, their twisted shapes threatening to engulf her if she lingered too long. Mia took a tentative step forward, each movement met with the biting pull of the darkness behind her. Her heart thundered in her chest as the door thudded shut, trapping the darkness at her back. She stood there, breathing heavily, until she realized the corridor was lined with doors, each one bearing strange, unsettling symbols. The air felt thick, mixed with the scent of old wood, something primal and foreboding. A shiver ran through her as she recalled the map nestled in her hand, a reminder of the path laid out before her. "What do I do?" she breathed, voice barely a whisper. "Choose," a raspy voice echoed from the shadows beneath the doorways. "One will show you the answer, the others, well, the choice is yours." The voice was familiar, a twisted echo of Shane's, but distorted beyond recognition. Panic ignited in her chest. Which door to choose? Images of Jamie's pleading eyes, Shane's fading shadow, and memories of laughter dwindled as she considered the possibilities. Each door seemed to breathe, pulsating with unseen life. Dread gripped her throat as she felt the air shift, the doors whispering secrets she couldn't decipher. "Hurry," the voices urged, "while you still can." Suddenly, a door flung open at the far end of the hallway, revealing a room awash in flickering light. Inside, ghostly figures danced as if caught in some eternal celebration. Their faces were obscured, but their movements radiated joy corrupted by an undercurrent of malice. "Kinder spirits." One voice beckoned, sing-song yet distorted, "We just want to play." Mia shivered, instinctively retreating. Yet there was still another door directly to her right, bathed in a muted, golden glow. She could almost hear the whispers of her friends calling out from its depths, yearning for her return. It felt warmer, inviting her to turn the handle and step through. Could she trust that warmth? Mia, the name slipped from Jamie's lips once more, fragile and pleading. The pressure in her chest mounted, memories crashing down like tidal waves. Images of their childhood blended with shadows, indelible joy stained with an impending doom. Fighting the pull of both the joyous yet twisted figures and the shimmering glow, she screamed, "This isn't just a game." Lost in the tempest of her emotions, she felt as if the shadows were tasting her, eager for her decision. The corridor trembled. The doors quaked. Every spirit surged forward, their laughter twisting into shrieks of torment. There is no escape. Mia clutched the map tighter, vision blurring. A truth flickered in her mind, only one choice hid the way out, and time was ticking. But in moments of desperate resolve, would her decision truly lead her to safety, or was it another mirage ready to shatter into yet more horror? As she faced the door of light, the shadows grew insatiable. The air crackled, and she hesitated just long enough for the ghosts to close in. Taking a deep breath, she steeled herself for the unknown, unsure of what awaited her beyond that gleaming threshold. Would she finally uncover the truth behind the whispers? Or would she plunge into another depth of despair? At that moment, the corridor trembled, and the next chilling surprise awaited her. Mia's heart raced as the shadows beckoned her closer. She could feel the breath of ancient fears on her neck. The choice loomed before her like a monstrous figure in the night. That golden door seemed to promise warmth and salvation, a timid glow amidst the chaos. But the figures dancing, their laughter mingling with the hollow echoes, gripped her like icy fingers around her throat. The walls of the corridor seemed to pulse, contracting and expanding as though alive, waiting for her decision to tip the balance. "You can do it, Mia," she whispered to herself, insecurities biting at her resolve. One door. Just one. As she took a step toward the radiating warmth, the shrieks from the other door cut through the air, raw and piercing. The joy of the ghostly figures twisted, shifting like a dark carnival of horrors. Every door has a cost, the raspy voice warned again, now sounding closer, more desperate. And you're running out of time. Mia felt her breaths growing shallow, the seconds dragging on like an eternity. She thought of Jamie, of Shane, of all the moments that led her to this place. The tug of connection pulled her toward the golden door, but the fear nestled deep within her mind sent her heart thrumming in protest. Do I trust it? A flicker of the map caught her eye. While the light from the golden door shimmered invitingly, the shadows began to ripple with an unsettling urgency. She pivoted toward the other door, drenched in ghostly laughter, her instincts flaring. What do you want? She yelled, her voice trembling against the waves of chaos swirling around her. Play, sang the voices, a harmony of dread filling the air. Play with us, Mia. You can be free, if you play right. Mia backed away instinctively, knowing any kind of game with these beings was bound to unravel her soul. She bit her lip, heart thudding violently. Yet, when Jamie's name echoed like an incantation from the golden door, she felt the weight of every lost laugh, every fleeting moment. She took another deep breath and turned toward the golden glow again, stretching out her hand as the corridor surged, shadows thrashing wildly, desperate to hold her back. Her fingers clasped the handle, warmth radiating through her. I can't do this alone. But moments before she could turn the knob, the ground trembled. A horrendous wail erupted from the corridor, a monstrous chorus harmonizing with her fear. The air thickened, wrapping around her like a suffocating fog as shadows lunged against her, clawing at her legs, demanding she choose now or be devoured. Mia. Jamie's voice sliced through the chaos, filled with an urgency that ignited her will to fight. As her adrenaline surged, she ripped her hand from the golden door and plunged into the room of ghostly figures, the air becoming ice-cold as she crossed the threshold. The spirits engulfed her, their laughter morphing into dissonant shrieks. The pulse of the corridor dimmed behind her, as if mourning her choice. The figures surrounded her, faces still obscured, their joy now laced with jagged edges of something sinister. You came to play, one whispered, inches from her face, its voice warped and layered like 100 whispers merged into one. Sweat beaded on her brow as she realized their eyes glowing voids of hunger fixated on her. The warmth of the golden door was gone, replaced by the chill echoing through this strange realm. Survive the game. They screamed in unison, and the laughter turned into a cacophony of rage, a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to rip her apart. Survive? Mia screamed back, her voice breaking as the reality of her situation crashed down on her. What does that even mean? The whirling figures swirled around her, a violent storm drawing her in closer. Her pulse raced, heart pounding in rhythm to the chaos around her. The door behind her began to shimmer, light flickering back to life as if tempting her to escape, but a new chilling suspicion gripped her. What if this was all part of the trick? Would leaping through a door lead to safety, or would it plunge her deeper into horror? And as the ghostly figures lunged again, she braced herself for whatever fate awaited her, trapped within a game she never wanted to play. Would she emerge from this nightmare, or become yet another spirit dancing in the darkness? The corridor trembled, and she realized a choice had to be made once more, or risk losing herself entirely. The ghostly figures pressed in, voices rising in a crescendo that clawed at the edges of Mia's sanity. She staggered back, adrenaline coursing through her veins as the air thickened with the oppressive weight of their presence. Survive the game, echoed in her mind, a warped mantra that twisted her heart into knots. Answer us, one figure hissed, its breath icy as it lingered too close. A chill ran down her spine, she could feel its fingers brush against her cheek, as if tasting her fear. I want to play. She screamed, the sound barely piercing the haze of madness around her. The response was immediate. A wave of ethereal energy surged through the room, vibrating the very air and pushing her back against the ice-cold wall. You have no choice, Mia. The game has already begun. Her instincts screamed danger, yet the shadows danced around her, a hypnotic display that tinged her world with madness. They swirled, shifting shapes transforming into nightmarish creatures more ancient than the walls around her. The laughter became a howling gale, and she clamped her hands over her ears, desperate to drown it out. "Do you feel it, Mia?" Another voice crooned, sultry and sweet. "The thrill of the game. All you have to do is let go. Just embrace the chaos." But chaos was exactly what she feared. The warmth of her memories, the laughter with Jamie, their plans for the future flickered in and out like a dying star. A weight settled in her stomach. If she succumbed to these shadows, would she ever see them again? Panic surged as she caught sight of the shimmering golden door again, like a beacon of hope in a stormy sea. Could she truly trust it? In that fleeting moment, she remembered Jamie's smile, the one filled with encouragement and light. "Mia." His voice rang through her mind like an anchor. "No matter what, you find a way." Her heart hammered as she ducked and darted through the swirling mass of figures, desperately pushing toward that glimmer. The air felt thick with despair, the laughter now morphing into whispers of betrayal, promising freedom yet demanding a cost. Just as she reached for the knob, a cold grip snagged her wrist, and she screamed, twisting in a panic. The shadow's eye sockets flared crimson, full of hunger and desperation. "You cannot leave. Let me go," she pleaded, a fierce anger igniting in her chest. The energy of her fear cracked like lightning, and she yanked her arm away, freeing herself, but the touch left a searing burn. "No escape." The chorus shrieked, a cacophony of fury aimed at her defiance. She felt her heart race, the sounds of despair amplifying. "Play, Mia. You owe us that much. You want Jamie? Then play." In that moment, chaos erupted. The walls pulsed violently, shadows unfurling and swallowing any glimmer of light. She was enveloped within the dark dance, fingers reaching, mouths laughing, a maelstrom of terror in every direction. Play, the figures clawed at her sanity. Or be lost forever. She stumbled, grappling for a decision as the shadows swirled around her. The laughter thickened into palpable dread, drowning her in darkness. And suddenly, the golden door flickered as if to remind her of its warmth, her lifeline. Gathering every ounce of defiance, she turned back to face the door, determination blazing in her veins. "I choose to escape." But the figures surged, their laughter morphing into howls that pierced the air. "You can't escape your fate." White-hot rage surged through Mia. Whatever they wanted, whatever game they played, she would not be their pawn. With a roar, she pushed through the shadows, racing toward the door that it flung open, revealing blinding light. But as she stepped forward, a realization hit her like a fist to the gut. This was the final moment. Would she be free, or would she tumble into an even darker abyss? As she dived through the threshold, the corridor shuddered violently, and the shadows screamed her name, echoing through the tunnel of light. And just like that, it all went black. What awaited her on the other side? Was her escape merely a clever ruse, plunging her deeper into the nightmare? Mia's eyes blinked open, confusion swirling around her as the brightness enveloped her. The first thing she felt was warmth, a stark contrast to the icy terror of the stockroom. She forced herself to sit up, heart pounding, scanning her surroundings. She was no longer in the store, she lay in a sunlit park, vibrant colors flooding her senses, a serene escape from the horrors she had just faced. "Is this real?" she muttered, pressing her palms against the grass. It felt solid, damp from recent rain. She took a deep, shuddering breath and let the sensation of safety wash over her. But then, memories crashed back in like relentless waves, pulling her under. The laughter of those shadowy figures echoed in her mind, Jamie's pleads, the decision that had felt more suffocating than breathing. "No." She gasped, clutching her head. Had she really escaped? Or had she slipped into another nightmare? "Mia." A familiar voice broke through her panic. She whipped around and her heart soared at the sight. Jamie stood a few feet away, looking no worse for wear, a radiant smile lighting up his face. "You made it. Jamie." She cried, her voice breaking. She stumbled forward, and he rushed into her arms. The embrace felt real warm, heavy with life, and it grounded her in the moment. I thought I lost you. Not a chance. I was worried about you. His relief matched her own, but then his eyes clouded over. But we need to talk. Mia stepped back, taking him in. His features were as she remembered, yet underneath lingered that unsettling feeling of uncertainty. What happened? How did we get here? Jamie's expression shifted, turning serious. This place at South not just any park. It's a limbo of sorts. We escaped the store, but the game isn't over. Panic bubbled beneath her skin. What do you mean? He gestured around. The shadows can still reach us, they want us back. We have to confront them and finish this, once and for all. A tightness seized her chest as the realization set in. They had to venture back into fear, back into chaos to fully escape it. But I thought I was free. No. We can't keep running. We have to face them. Together. His resolve fortified hers, and she nodded, adrenaline coursing through her. Okay, together, she echoed, her determination growing stronger. They walked hand in hand down a path, its warm sunlight contrasting sharply with the grim memories of the dark store. As they moved forward, shadows crept along the edges, whispering for her attention, teasing her with promises of happiness that beckoned from beyond the trees. Mia, focus. Jamie urged, breaking the spell. Don't listen to them. But she could feel them pulling, their whispers curling around her thoughts like tendrils. Why are you running from the fun? They giggled. You belong with us, Mia. Come play, I want to play. She shouted, voice steadying with newfound strength. I'm done with your games. The shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned. With the surge of her voice, hope filled the space around them. Mia felt a bright light building within, pressing back against the darkness, illuminating their path. Don't give in, Jamie encouraged. His grip tightened around hers. They walked against the rising tide, step by fierce step, a united front against the dark. Suddenly, they broke through the trees, finding themselves before a gaping portal, a swirling vortex of shadows and laughter, twisted visages flickering at the edge. It all coalesced into the form of the grotesque mannequin from before, smiling wide, eyes glinting hungrily. It's time to come back, Mia. It taunted, echoing their fears. For a split second, doubt crept in. But then, she glanced at Jamie. His unwavering presence infused courage into her veins. No. She shouted defiantly. I'm not afraid of you. I refuse to play your game. With those words, a pulse of light shattered the darkness. The shadows surged ahead, but Mia and Jamie stood firm, pouring every ounce of willpower into pushing back against the encroaching figures. A blinding surge engulfed them both, and the world exploded into brilliance. As the shadows faded, their laughter transformed into distant echoes, shrinking away into the recesses of her mind. Through the haze of golden light, Mia and Jamie found themselves standing in a wide open field, filled with blooming flowers beneath a radiant sky. The weight of fear lifted like morning fog. They turned to each other, excitement blooming in their chests. We did it, Jamie breathed in disbelief. Yeah. We really did. For a moment, they breathed in the vibrant newness, the sweet air free from shadows. But the echoes of their journey flickered in the back of Mia's mind, a reminder of how easy it would be to slip back into fear. We'll remember this, she promised, grasping Jamie's hand. We'll protect the truth we found. Together, they stepped into the sunlight, leaving the laughter and shadows behind forever. Let us go home, Jamie smiled, and Mia nodded. This was their fresh start, a promise of laughter, warmth, and the strength forged in their darkest hours. But as they walked, a quiet whisper threaded through the air behind them, teasing at the edge of consciousness. We'll be waiting. And thus, Mia turned towards the horizon, clarity settling in her bones. They would never forget and, when the time came, they would face the darkness again. They were stronger now together. Now it's your turn to show your support. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We need your help. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Mia's journey. What did you think of the ending? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Join us in the adventure, and never miss what's next.